Untouched, the marked of Kane are but an empty shell, silicone and synapse encasing a soulless void. But imbued with the sense of purpose, there are none more determined, more willing to shake the pillars of the earth, with their quest to satisfy my desires. As the First Tiberium War drew to a close, pervasive and disturbing rumors began to emerge from the Tiberium wastelands of Central Asia and the Russian steppes. Nomadic travelers and Nod separatist colonies alike have shared tales of Nod bunkers hidden deep beneath the earth. Laboratories where cultish techno-fetishists perform horrific rituals upon the corpses of the Brotherhood's fallen. The goal? Nothing less than raising the dead. While these rumors were quite grandiose in their depictions, the truth is just as strange. In the aftermath of the First Tiberium War, Kane spent much time contemplating how it was that he and his Brotherhood had been defeated by GDI. One of the more interesting theories that he came to was that the humanity of his own Brotherhood was one of those reasons. While many of Kane's followers were devoutly loyal to him, they could still be held back by their own human emotions. Even the most loyal of soldiers could still succumb to fear and regret, and this was a weakness that Kane believed he could not afford to have in the future. He would need an army that was unquestionably loyal to him in every way, devoid of free will and human emotion. Kane tasked his best scientists and engineers with the development of this army. It would be developed underground somewhere in the hinterlands of Russia and China. This was so that the product was kept hidden from the eyes of not just GDI, but even his own Brotherhood, as Kane knew that there would be many among his ranks that would object to the creation of such a soulless army. And even if some people would happen to stumble upon the project, they would have a hard time convincing others of what they saw, assuming they would even make it out alive to begin with. The project yielded a few successful prototype cyborgs that Nod made use of during the Second Tiberium War. These came in the form of cyborg infantry and cyborg commando units. In addition to their cybernetics, these cyborgs also made use of research from another one of the Brotherhood's previous projects called Project Regenesis, which involved the infusion of Tiberium into the human body in order to make them stronger. And this research was used in order to help power these new cyborgs. High-ranking members within the Brotherhood became more reliant on them as personal bodyguards, since they were seen as superior to humans, but this would later turn out to be a deadly mistake. During what came to be known as the Firestorm Crisis, the Brotherhood's AI known as Cabal went rogue and started a rebellion against both Nod and GDI. This involved the AI taking control of all Nod cyborg units and using them to dispose of the Nod Inner Circle, and eliminating important figures of GDI's science teams. The rogue AI would try to bolster its ranks by using a new unit called the Reaper, in order to capture human civilians and use them to make even more cyborg minions. Cabal would ultimately be brought down due to the combined strength of both Nod and GDI. This event meant that the Brotherhood would cease development on all cybernetic research, and go on to phase out all cyborg units from its arsenal. And with Kane still recovering in stasis from injuries he sustained during the Second Tiberium War, he was unable to intervene in these actions. However, once Kane had emerged from stasis, he set about rebuilding and reunifying the Brotherhood. Part of this was the development of a replacement to Cabal with a new, more powerful and loyal AI known as Legion. Legion was exactly what Kane needed in order to activate the sleeping and abandoned cyborgs deep within the underground bunkers in Russia and Southeast Asia. With the awakening of this army, Kane finally got what he wanted: the most fearsome and obedient of all Brotherhood soldiers, the Marked of Kane. The Marked of Kane are primarily an infantry-focused army. given that most of its units are cyborgs, which, as most people know, are made up of a combination of man and machine. While much of the army was hidden in underground bunkers, it is also mentioned by Kane that some were actually hidden amongst the general populace, seemingly normal human beings acting as sleeper cells to awaken when the time is right. The Awakened are one of the core infantry units in the Marked of Kane, completely replacing the standard militant and militia infantry units. Their heavy armor makes them more resistant to damage compared to their GDI riflemen and Nod counterparts. They come equipped with a standard machine gun attached to their left arm, but they also come equipped with an EMP cannon attached to their right arm. This is effective at temporarily disabling vehicles and buildings in order to give Nod units, such as rocket squads or tanks, an advantage over GDI or Skrin vehicles. The ultimate realization of Kane's vision of an army stripped of its humanity and free will, the Enlightened are truly a horrifying sight to behold. While their weaker brethren, the Awakened, still bear some traces of humanity in their desiccated flesh, the Enlightened are almost entirely cybernetic, the last vestiges of their prior form encased in layers of bone-white battle armor, faces concealed behind eyeless masks devoid of human emotion. The Enlightened are a more powerful version of the Awakened. They too are equipped with an EMP cannon on their right arm, which works exactly the same as the Awakened's, but on their left arm is attached a particle beam cannon. This makes them far more effective at taking out enemy vehicles and buildings compared to their Awakened brethren. Their armor is also more resilient as well, able to withstand direct shots from heavy rounds, as well as being able to resist a tank attempting to crush the Enlightened beneath its treads. The only downside it has compared to the Awakened is that it moves slower. However, this can be remedied with a unique upgrade to the Marked of Kane called Cybernetic Legs, which increases the movement speed of not just the Enlightened, but also of saboteurs and Tiberium troopers as well. Speaking of which, the Tiberium trooper is the last unique unit in the Marked of Kane arsenal, and the only one that isn't a cyborg, though they do make use of a few cybernetic enhancements. These troops came about thanks to the efforts and research of one Dr. Jarrid, a former GDI scientist who defected to the Brotherhood's cause. Though the idea of such a soldier is not new to the Brotherhood, as Nod made use of troops called Chemical Warriors during the First Tiberium War. The Tiberium trooper operates very similarly to the Black Hand Warriors, in that they are effective against infantry and buildings, especially infantry that are inside buildings. But instead of using a flamethrower, they are equipped with a liquid Tiberium sprayer. Interestingly, the trooper is also very effective against Skrin units and structures as well, even though the Skrin generally have a natural resistance to Tiberium-based weapons. Other weapons that the Marked of Kane specifically make use of are magnetic mines. While these operate similarly to standard mines used in the Nod arsenal, they differ in that instead of just simply exploding like standard mines, they instead attach themselves to any vehicles that drive over them, slowly eroding the vehicle's hull, causing damage over time. Marked of Kane units can also be upgraded with special supercharged particle beam weapons. These weapons increase the damage of enlightened cyborgs, shredder defense turrets, and even Venom attack aircraft. Visual representation of these supercharged beam weapons can be seen in the form of the bright bluish-white color of the beams themselves. Due to the Marked of Kane being a very recent addition to the Brotherhood, there are only 2 known events which the Cyborg army was heavily involved in. The first known event was the awakening of the Marked themselves. The task of awakening them was to be done by Legion, which had reactivated itself in the year 2052. It led a group of Nod forces to activate 4 control nodes in the Russian hinterlands. A GDI base nearby attempted to stop the Brotherhood by destroying these nodes, but were unable to do so. Thus, the Marked of Kane would arise and lay waste to the nearby GDI base and its forces in the area. Shortly afterward, Kane would task Legion to take his new cyborg army and use them to reclaim the Tacitus from the Rocky Mountains complex in North America. The Tacitus had grown highly unstable due to GDI's experiments on it, and Kane could not afford to wait any longer to retrieve it. During the assault on the complex, the Mark of Kane went up against two of GDI's most highly regarded divisions, the Steel Talons and Zocom. To even the odds, Black Hand forces joined in the battle to reinforce the Mark of Kane. This ultimately led to them overcoming GDI's forces and claiming the Tacitus in the name of Kane. Though the Marked of Kane have seen limited combat compared to other factions within the Brotherhood, such as the Black Hand, they have proven themselves to be just as efficient at it, with the cyborgs not being weighed down or held back by the deficiencies of human emotions and free thought. Their minds and bodies only focused on Kane and his will, brought about through Legion. However, one thing has yet to be addressed. According to many entries in the intelligence database, the cyborg army of the Marked was completed at the end of the Second Tiberium War, and awaiting activation. Yet we know that the Firestorm crisis occurred right after the war, with Cabal's rebellion against both Nod and GDI. This brings up a few unanswered questions. Did Cabal know about the Marked of Kane? And if so, why did it not activate and take control of the army during its rebellion? Did Kane himself not trust his own creation Cabal with such information? Either way, these questions may be best left unanswered for now, but should be kept in mind for whatever the future holds for the cyborgs of the Marked of Kane.